Burlington since 2017. He has been studying Aikido around the world for the past 40 years, including a decade at the world headquarters in Tokyo. He is constantly learning and passing his expertise on to his students, new and old. Please enjoy their exciting demonstration.
Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. We'll start with Fadi Sensei will demonstrate a kata, much like what you saw a minute ago in karate, but this time with a short staff or jo. Sensei? Oh, will you join me? So Aikido was started about 150 years ago by a person named Ueshiba Sensei. We have his portrait there and we bow at the beginning of class to him. And it was originally a derivative of a number of martial arts going at the time. You guys can go ahead and start. So O-Sensei started by learning some spear, some jo, that's the short staff, sword, and unarmed martial arts. So here we see someone attacking you with a short staff and defending yourself. The end of the 1800s and early 1900s was a really fertile time in Japan for martial art growth. And a lot of things came out of that period, such as karate, judo, that you'd be familiar with, from the traditional martial arts, as well as various forms of jujitsu. So Aikido was built on those things, and we'll just show the next one would be Ollie and Andrew, please. So you see that at the time it was a very weapons-based culture, right? The samurai were walking around with swords, and there were martial arts to use those and defend yourself against those. And that's where Aikido kind of combined elements of jujitsu and self-defense against weapons. So you've seen a lot of weapons work so far in the demonstration. It occupies roughly about 10% of our training. We then move on to unarmed practice, and this is where the bulk of our training is. So this is a very fundamental basic technique that Ollie is showing, where someone's attacking with a strike to the head, and you put them on the ground. What Ollie shows now is you start with that, and then you can build into a throw, a wrist lock, a wrist twist, and another throw. So there's a nice progression there of different things. Thank you. Okay, next. Next, Mohammed and Ahmed. Now, one thing that differentiated Aikido, or when Aikido started becoming Aikido, in the basically the pre-war period and through the war, is that we started practicing in a actually different way than you would in judo. So in judo, for example, or karate, a lot of it is based on competition and fighting. In Aikido, we both take turns being the thrower and being the thrown. So the attacker is the bad guy, and the attacker ends up on the ground. We know this. It's sort of a two-person kata, so to speak. Thank you. Good. Okay, next. Noah and David, please. So you can see that anyone can practice with anyone because of that fact that it's a cooperative practice. So here you're seeing another wrist lock. So a lot of the stuff that you're going to start seeing now may look actually quite similar to the kakie practice at the end of the karate demonstration, where they were crossed hands and pushing and pulling and then moving into a technique. That's where we spend the bulk of our time in Aikido, is practicing that kind of thing. So here, guy grabs you and boom, ouch. It might not look like much, but that hurts a lot. Okay, so you've seen some grabs. There's also strikes. So someone strikes and you defend. This is like a karate chop to the side of the head, or, if you want to think of it in more sort of common terms now, like a roundhouse punch that, a haymaker that someone might throw. Thank you. Good. Okay, next, Noah and Marcus, please. So one of the things is you're not really sure, because we don't have colored belts. We just have white belt and black belt. You don't really know what level someone is just by looking at them until you actually work with them and see what they feel like. So these two guys are relatively new. They've been practicing somewhere around 6 months to a year, or just over. But other white belts, they may have been practicing for 10 years and haven't got their black belt yet. But we have the same progression through belts that karate and judo do. We just don't change colors. Thank you, guys. Good, next. And you can see we've got some big people, and we've got some small people, we've got some young people, we've got some older people. Today, in this practice, we don't have anyone over, 55 or something, but there are actually a lot of people practicing Aikido well into their 70s and 80s. My teachers are in their 70s, and they still make a good mess of me. Okay, thank you, Antoine. So what you're seeing now is kind of the stuff we practice, but then, how is it applicable against someone kind of harassing you on the street? So Antoine's harassing poor Hong, and she fixes him. Right, or grabs her from behind, and she's just like, there's that wrist thing again. Hurts. And pins him. Okay, or kind of the shove, hey buddy. Boom. So some of this stuff looks kind of like judo, right? If you're familiar with judo, there's judo-type moves in Aikido as well. Thank you. Okay, Zeman and Antoine? Yeah. All right, weapons again. So here comes a guy with a knife. This is a very common martial arts technique where you twist the wrist that way when someone stabs you. I saw one of the karate guys doing the same technique earlier. Boom. When it's applied fast, you kind of have an option of, do I let my wrist twist and hurt, or do I jump and absorb it with my body and my movement? So that's kind of one of those things that you learn how to do. It's very progressive. So in terms of how you practice, you start with very simple rolls on the mats, getting used to it, and then later on, you start, taking these big fancy falls. But we start very gentle, and then it just kind of works up depending on what your body's good with. That last technique we did against a knife, now we did it against a punch. Thank you. Is anyone left other than me? No? Okay, my turn. So I mentioned earlier we don't have sparring, but we do have a more free-form practice where you don't really know what's going to come and you respond. Okay, so I'm going to put together a number of the things that you've just seen. covered the aspects of Aikido, most of the curriculum. We also spent a lot of time practicing on our knees. It's not as flashy, but it builds up your lower body strength. Woohoo! Thank you very much. We do have a dojo. We actually use excuse me, the Karate Dojo space, the Shudokan that you saw earlier, and there are some flyers out there if you're interested in trying this. I'm tired now. But trust me, it does start gentle, and then you can be as hardcore aggro as you want, or you can continue gentle. So it really does appeal to just about anybody. O Sensei used to say, if you can carry a bag of rice, you can do Aikido. All right, thank you very much, everyone.